Hey, how's it going? This is the Football Diary podcast at the Euros. The tournament's finally up and running with some fantastic games and performances so far. Myself, Myles and Dave are going to be talking about the best of them, including thumping wins for both host Germany and Spain, and holders Italy coming back from behind to beat Albania. But of course, we're going to start with Gareth Southgate's Three Lions, England, who edged past Serbia 1-0, thanks to a commanding Jude Bellingham performance, which included the winning goal, of course, and a deserved Man of the Match award. But I'll start with you guys, just go straight into your highlights of what you've seen so far from this tournament. Myles, how about you?
Yeah, it's hard to say so early on who really is setting the pace, but Germany looked to have done that on the opening day, didn't they? In what could have been quite a difficult fixture, kind of coming in with the expectations as hosts. You never know what that pressure that'll bring, but they swept Scotland aside with ease. Particularly Fulkrug's goal was incredible. The way he hit that ball, it stayed hit, didn't it? It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really commanding performance from them, and emphatic to start the tournament with, which they needed. I thought Romania's victory over Ukraine 3-0 was pretty emphatic too, and totally unexpected. But Dave, how about you? What was the standout team performance for you, in your opinion?
I think I probably have to say the Spain game. I think everybody was wondering whether what kind of form they were going to come into this competition in, and they started with a resounding, 3-0 winner. I think everybody anticipated that game to be a lot closer than it was, and they willingly swept Croatia aside.
Well, we're going to start with England's win over Serbia, I think, because that's where we have to start, really. And strangely, we were saying before we recorded, it's a bit of a mixed opinion, wasn't it, about the performance itself, despite, a win being a win to kick off a major international tournament. But it really was a game of two halves, to kind of bring about a cliche, wasn't it, with some frustration, I think, from those watching on, because the first half, Myles, was actually straight away, like quite an impressive few interplays from the team. The attacking lineup played really well. And Jude Bellingham in particular is clearly England's talisman now, isn't he? He's the playmaker of the team. And he was the kind of instigator of everything good that England did, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly in the first sort of 30 minutes. I was a little bit worried that he tired through the game and he was almost trying to do too much on his own. And he was treating that game like it was the final and putting everything into it from the first whistle, which is amazing, but shows maybe the younger side of his game and where that maturity will kick in and he kind of manages his game time throughout a bit. Like he took a lot of knocks because he was hanging onto the ball for a really long time. But the way he was gliding through that midfield, particularly in the first half, the way he was kind of linking up with Foden when he drifted more centrally, the way he was finding Saka out wide, Trent even, it was fantastic. And to arrive into the box like that for the header shows quite how far his game has come at Real Madrid this season, playing that more advanced position. We're not really used to seeing that of Bellingham for England in particular. So it was really good for him to get on the score sheet early on in the tournament as well, I think.
Yeah, I think Bellingham, Dave, the driving force, and as Myles said, maybe a bit of naivety and youthful exuberance really carried him to every part of England's midfield play, defensive and attacking. And you could see him kind of really getting in the face of a few of the players, which I think really gets the fans on side as well, doesn't it? But Bellingham, mate, I mean, is he going to be the driving force for England for the rest of the tournament now based on this? He's the clear number 10, but he was given kind of like a free role in this game, wasn't he? And it paid off in the end.
It seems that way, doesn't it? I think with the responsibility that he has in that focal area, he seems to be the focal point and everything really does go through him. And I think I agree with Myles. I think he's still got that little bit of naivety about him. He's obviously still very young, but I think we've lacked that kind of character in recent years.
Yeah.
I'll probably say, maybe going all the way back to when we had Rooney at such a young age, who had that bit of arrogance about them, and they knew they were that good that they could almost pretty much do anything with the ball. And I definitely think he's that kind of player, and I think he's on that level. So, yeah, I think there are other things in this game that far more concerning than what obviously Bellingham was probably the biggest positive of the game, and has shown that he can take this team up a level if he needs to, and win games on his own. But I think we just want a little bit more from England.
Well, on that then, Dave, I'll stay with you. What frustrated you about England's performance then? Because as I said at the start, it has divided opinion slightly. Well, I say completely. There's been as much negative as there has been positive. But what did you see that kind of made you feel like something wasn't quite working yet?
I think particularly creatively. I think in that creativity that I think we lacked at times. If you look at after probably preceding the goal, it was a brilliant goal, brilliant little ball from Saka, and you don't see many balls attacked like that. In fact, Bellingham put everything into that header. But I think, particularly in the wide areas, I think there was a lack of support, mainly from the fullbacks. We saw Kyle Walker have a couple, marauding runs down the wing, and we actually nearly scored from one just after the goal. But there was a lack of that on the left and the right hand side, really, mainly in the second half. And I think probably the midfield just looked a bit too disjointed for me, especially in the second half. I think that the first half, you look at that first half an hour, really controlled things without really being threatened as such. And Trent actually played quite well in that first half. But it just seemed like there was too many gaps that were appearing in that midfield. And I think the worry for me is that we just lacked any composure to keep holding the ball. And you saw certain players, you saw like Phil Foden in the second half, even though I thought, he didn't play particularly well. But there were times when Trent was playing these Hollywood balls and we'd lose the ball. There was nobody upfield. He was Harry Kane on his own. You felt a little bit sorry for him at times, even though I thought he did remarkably well at times just to hold the ball up the way he did. But Foden was, saying like, keep hold of it, be safer, keep a hold of the ball, take care of it, because there are moments in games when you need to take care of it, keep a hold of possession, and you will have those moments where you'll create chances. We can't be putting teams to the sword, consistently through the 90 minutes.
Yeah, there was a few bright spots, I think, a few players that really stood out for me, but I'm going to focus on the frustrations first before we end on a really positive note for England, Myles, because like I say, a win is a win. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dave touched on it, had mixed receptions as well about his role in midfield. And I think for me, mainly it's about the way the balance is almost disrupted a little bit by which role does Trent play? Because he can't defend, can he really? So he's not going to play a holding midfield role. So does Declan Rice play that role? And obviously Bellingham tracked back quite a lot as well. For me, that confusion about who played what role disrupted the flow a little bit. Is there anything else, or is that kind of the biggest thing for you as well that you felt didn't quite click?
I think there was loads that didn't click, to be honest, because
Really?
I think the setup changed so much in the second half that it completely nullified what England were trying to do. And I think they picked the wrong game plan for the wrong opponent at times. Look, you're right. We will end on a more positive note because a win is a win. And if we saw a side like Portugal put in that kind of performance and get the 1-0 win, you'd say, well, that's how you win tournaments. And that is definitely true of this England performance. But it didn't stop me feeling incredibly frustrated watching that second half at the really obvious areas we needed to improve. So Trent was definitely one of them, because in the first half, that first 30 minutes in particular, when England were attacking Serbia, they were excellent at getting Trent involved across different areas. So he would drift out wide as Saka cut inside and give another option out on that right-hand flank, which was excellent to see. He was playing really nice balls in behind to the wingers who were trying to break forward. He was linking with Bellingham really, really well. But then we saw the opposite of when he did have to come back towards his own goal, he just kept giving the ball away. I think he gave the ball away 11 times, which is a lot for a centre midfielder. And I know that you're asking him to be ambitious, you're asking him to be creative, and we saw moments of real quality within that. But if you are then changing to this tactic where you're lumping the ball long at Harry Kane, who's just meeting two strong Serbian centre-backs every single time, then it's the wrong play. What Trent is really good at is playing the ball across the pitch or along the floor through the middle. And instead, what they were doing was bringing players like him and Foden really deep to defend, and then lumping it up the pitch and hoping for the best. So at that point, Southgate has to assess what he's trying to achieve in the game. And if it is, try and get Harry Kane to run the clock down, I'm disappointed in that. If not, there were some really obvious changes to make. Now, for me, Foden on that left-hand side is completely pointless because you are nullifying all the qualities that he has. When he was coming centrally in the first half and linking with Bellingham, he looked excellent, actually. And we saw the kind of interplay that he has with De Bruyne even at City, for examples. And then that second half, he was staying out wide and doing nothing. So if you're going to do that, bring Gordon on.
Yeah.
Bring someone on who's going to run at the defenders. Because when Saka was doing that and running at the fullback, they looked really threatened by it and it was really effective in that first half. And then they just stopped doing it. But you've got the option on the bench to change that and impact that. Same with Kane. If your plan is just lump the ball long, Kane is going to struggle with that. He didn't get involved in the game because he couldn't. I don't blame him, but it was the wrong opposition. You swap him for Watkins, who's going to run at the defenders, try and run in behind, press them a lot harder than Kane can, then it's more effective. And it just seemed like Southgate, he wasn't ready to change what he'd started with. And how many times have we said that about him?
Yeah, players at his disposal, he just needs to kind of make them fit in the right positions. And I think there's far too many players who are slightly out of their preferred position. Foden being one of them as well. I think, yeah, you're right. On the left, he's kind of wasted a little bit, but players that thrived, I think, were Saka. I thought Bukayo Saka had a fantastic game.
Yeah, I did.
Mark Gahey as well, alongside John Stones, I thought looked really
Superb.
calm. So let's focus on them. What about those two, Myles, you think really supported their case?
Them and Rice is the other one that has to get a mention. I thought Declan Rice showed why he's probably England's most important player, because where the rest of the midfield kind of had that free role and did whatever they wanted, he was the one that was organised and disciplined enough to help us maintain that lead and support Gahey and Stones, which is a really new centre-back partnership. But Gahey was fantastic. I mean, you know me, I was clamouring for Konsa to start, but Gahey showed what he can bring to this side, because he kept a really firm head on his shoulders. He was really confident going in for every challenge. Mitrovic, we know, can bully defenders, and he did not let that happen to him. He read him incredibly well throughout. And both him and Stones, in the first half in particular, their distribution out to the midfield was a lot better. It was sad to see that reduced in the second half to them literally just clearing the ball every time they got it. But I do think there was some bright sparks in the fact that Saka, obviously, we know we're waiting for him to get to full fitness. So although I was a bit frustrated to see him come off for Bowen, it makes sense. And having that rotation option is good for him. I thought Rice showed why, like I say, I think he's the most valuable midfielder in this tournament, really. I don't think there's any team that's going to rely on their midfield player like England will with Rice. And Gahey showed that he can replace Maguire, which that's one of the biggest worries England had. So when we have Luke Shaw back, for example, and we are looking at kind of a full deck of cards, that is encouraging, I will say.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to still be positive about. And I think the fact that we're not talking about how England were at risk many times, there's a few hairy moments, but generally I think the frustrations lie within the fact that England didn't take the opportunity to extend the lead further and didn't kick on and get a second goal. I don't know why I'm turning to you, Dave, to finish this on a positive note, because that's not normally the case with you. But what is it about England do you think really kind of, worked? And which players do you think, extending on what Myles said, really kind of came away with a positive outlook for the next game?
I think one thing is that there's still so much more to look forward to. I think that you look at the players that can get minutes in this game, Cole Palmer. I think was the earliest sub was made obviously for Trent, but then I think Jarrod Bowen came on in, was it like the 78th minute or something like that?
Do you know what though? So just quickly, the Trent sub was the first time I've seen Southgate make a change that you're going, that's an obvious change, you should do that now, because it needed Gallagher's energy. Right. That was actually good to see, and Gallagher did exactly what you needed him to do when he came on.
He did, yeah, and I think you look at some of those players, like, I think we kind of wanted to see the likes of Eberezer coming in. He's had a couple of really promising warm-up games to this tournament, and I think they're the kind of players we want to be coming in and making a difference, making an impact. So we've got that to look forward to. I just hope that Southgate's got that, just wants to take more risks, because that's something that I think a lot of England fans have obviously complained about in the past, that it doesn't seem like he's willing to take those risks. And you look at the players they've got, I don't think it's taking risks. You should be going out to win the game. And what really, I think, concerned me mainly in this game is that we didn't. I think one time actually I saw Phil Foden pick up a position in between the lines, into feet, and he had a poor touch. It was a brilliant, really intelligent position he picked up. But I didn't see any of our attackers picking up those positions and receiving the ball and looking to turn. It was a little bit of a shame, really, to be honest, because I think we've got potential to do so much, and we've got the players.
Do you know what though? Like Dave says about Southgate not being renowned for taking risks, playing Trent in that midfield role, in an advanced midfield role, and playing Foden, Bellingham, and Saka behind Kane, looked like he was finally doing it. Like he picked quite an attacking lineup. If you think about it, think about the qualities that Trent brings to a midfield. The first 30 minutes, we were playing very, very good football. I thought we looked excellent. It was probably one of the better spells I've seen of any side in this tournament so far. I just want to see them sustain that, and it'll be interesting to see what they do against Denmark. Do you think they'll change much midweek?
Maybe. I think he might flirt with the idea of switching Foden out, just because
really?
I don't think he can drop Saka at this point. And I think, if anything, he's probably preferred to put Foden on the right or centre, and he's not going to dislodge either Bellingham or Saka, is he? So he might switch him out and see how that affects the forward play.
So, controversial one. I wonder what your take is on this, because I said this watching the game yesterday, and you don't want to nullify a player like Saka, who is arguably one of the best players England have got. But do you remember when Saka first came through playing for England and he played left back? Well, yesterday they played Trippier left back, and it seemed like, in particular in the first half, Foden was coming centrally, and all of our width down the left-hand side was coming from the fullback. But he's right-footed, so he wasn't getting the delivery into the box that we normally see Kieran Trippier doing. Instead, he was cutting back inside and looking to pass the ball across. I wonder if he'd been bold enough to take the risk of play Saka left back and keep Trent in midfield, so that then he can tuck back and join the defence and let Saka attack from the fullback position. And we would have had a left-footed player putting the ball across, and then Foden could have played on the right. Would that not have been better? Bold, maybe, for Southgate.
It sounds very bold, yeah. I think any changes that they make will probably be one, if anything. I think the midfield is still slightly unbalanced with Trent in there, with the setup that they had. I'd like to see someone like Kobbie Mainoo be given a chance. I really would, and that's just bias aside. Dave, would you make any changes for the Denmark game?
I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there, you're saying, really, because you're saying that he won't take risks, but then if he's going to go more conservative and play a double pivot, then he's kind of got to play Adam Wharton in there, who's an inexperienced
double
young
pivot
player.
though?
If he plays Wharton and Rice in there, that's going to be off. And I think we need to do something if we're coming up against a team, the better teams, because I think we need a bit more protection. I know that sounds, I don't want to say cowardice as such, but I think we need that protection. I think better teams, if they have that kind of space that Serbia had in this game to play with, I think they will create chances.
Caveat, I don't think there's a better team in this group than Serbia that England will play anyway. I think actually the fact that we've gone for that lineup against Serbia says we'll probably do the same thing against Denmark as well. That I think if Shaw is fit, Shaw starts. I'll be honest, I think he'll probably start Gallagher over Trent in the next one and get him some minutes in. I'd be surprised to see it be the same midfield, but I don't think it'll be Mainoo. I think it'll be Gallagher.
Possibly. Well, a win to start the tournament anyway. That's something Scotland can only dream about after their humiliating 5-1 defeat at the hands of Germany, which is where we'll go to next. But I want to focus more on Germany and what a start they've had under Julian Nagelsmann in his first tournament game, I think it is, isn't it? Myles, talk to me about their vibrant young forward line, because it was amazing, wasn't it?
We said it, didn't we, Dave? When we did the preview, we said that one of the things we were really looking forward to about Germany, at least, was that it looked like Havertz would play up top centrally and then have these two excellent dynamic number 10s behind him in Musiala and Wirtz. And particularly in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, the way those two were playing, they pulled Scotland apart. Yeah. And I said earlier, it's hard to work out just how good Germany were because Scotland were so awful. And I was disappointed in them, I'll be honest. When you are the underdog in any game and you're a team like Scotland, the thing that you've got on your side is the tenacity and the effort and the passion that they seem to have built a very club side mentality. So if they've got that, what you expect is high energy, pressing, flying into challenges in the right moments, not inside the box 2-footed like they chose to in that moment, and really giving Germany no space. But actually, Germany had all the space that they needed. And if you're going to give someone like Toni Kroos miles of space in the middle of the park, with players like Musiala and Wirtz moving in front of him, you are asking for trouble. And Germany exploited that really, really well. They obviously identified. I don't think that would have been their game plan necessarily, because they wouldn't have expected Scotland to allow them that much room on the ball. But they managed to adapt to it really, really quickly and just pick them off, basically.
Yeah, those two number 10s just ran riot, didn't they? And I think Musiala in particular, we've seen his qualities, haven't we, Myles? But I think the way he can manoeuvre himself in tight spaces, the way he finds space, his agility and turn of pace is just incredibly impressive. It does make you think, as an England fan, what the midfield could have looked like with Bellingham and Musiala, couldn't you? But he's the future of German football, isn't he? No, of course he wouldn't. He is Germany's future, isn't he? Because he's the centre of everything good they did.
They both are, and I think even the way he took his goal, like the footwork inside the box to then lash it home into the top corner, the confidence on a young man like that. You're in a home tournament, it's the opening game, you never know what to expect, and he just lit it up. And between him and Wirtz, who, honestly, I think Wirtz is in with a shout for the Ballon d'Or this year. Like, he's been sensational at Leverkusen, and if Germany can go all the way in this tournament as well, he will be integral to it. And that is a frightening thing to think that will be the next 10 years of German attacking football sorted. And we've seen what someone like Thomas Muller did, coming into the German side at a young age, being a mainstay in tournament football and really being decisive in key moments. And it looked like they finally needed to move on from that. And they've got not one, but two players that can do it. It's fantastic.
It's a really dynamic attacking prospect for Germany, isn't it, Dave? And I don't think it matters really in some ways which kind of striker you put in front of them, because as we saw, Havertz had a great load of opportunities really with those behind him, and then Füllkrug obviously got his chance and took it brilliantly as well. And it all came from the creativity of Wirtz and Musiala. What did you make of those two, man? I think that was the most outstanding, under 21 performance from a player I've seen for a while.
Yeah, I think if you look at some of the interchanges between the two of them, and that attacking trio, I thought was outstanding, particularly in the first half. Clearly, they've got a really good understanding already, and I think Nagelsmann's done a really good job with this Germany team. In such a short space of time. For a long period, have kind of been in a bit of disarray. They're starting to look like a really promising, threatening young team that are coming through. And like you mentioned, they've got different options. They've got Füllkrug in there who came in and scored an excellent goal as well. So if they need to change it and go with, a more focal point like him, then they can do that. I'm just looking to see how they progress throughout the tournament, because like Myles said, I think there's still some grey area there as to just how good they are, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they do against some of the better teams.
Well, what is the grey area then, Dave? Because I thought across the pitch they look great, and I couldn't find. Well, there's only Scotland, I guess, and they made it very easy for them by getting a player sent off in the first half. But they seem to look brilliant across the pitch, and like you say, Toni Kroos had the run of the pitch, didn't he? He had everything available to him space-wise to make the whole team tick really nicely. I didn't expect them to be this good, and I'm surprised now. I'll be surprised now if they didn't get far further than the quarterfinals. I
think one thing I pinpointed, I think in the preview, was that there's, particularly in midfield, and there's some aging legs in there.
Yeah.
And I think some of the teams who've got a little bit more mobility in midfield, a little bit more tenacity. It'd be interesting to see if they can keep that kind of those levels up throughout the games. I think that's my only sort of question mark there, really, that's not been answered yet.
Anything about Germany stand out for you, Myles? Are you looking to see them as a different prospect now from the start of the tournament? And that's only one game in.
It's hard, isn't it? I agree with Dave, to be honest, because we've not seen them challenged yet. And I know you can say that for most teams, particularly in the group stages that are more favoured, that you're not really going to see what they're made of until the latter stages of the tournament. But Scotland, honestly, I was so disappointed with them. I honestly thought there could be a bit of an upset there, of at least maybe sneaking a draw, because they might catch Germany cold on the opening day. But no one seemed up for it. Like, I'll be honest, I've never seen McGinn play so poorly in a Scotland shirt. Yeah. It was awful.
Out of position,
and I think that was across the board. But I don't think it matters, because they still had a job to do and they just didn't do it. And that's why it's really hard to assess Germany right now. They looked excellent. I don't want to take anything away from that. But for example, we only saw their defence and their keeper tested once, and it ended in a goal, really. So we want to see what stability they have at the back, in particular when they come up against much better opposition, which they inevitably will in the tournament.
Okay, so early days to get too carried away with what was a great Germany performance, but also a very humiliating Scotland performance in some ways, wasn't it? So let's put it into some perspective. But I think one team that deserves a lot of plaudits for their performance, and there's a lot of football to talk about, but this one in particular stands out for me, is Spain beating a really impressive Croatia team 3-0, on paper at least. I did not expect Spain to win 3-0 either, and I think they're a little bit of an unknown quantity too, aren't they? Because there's a lot of youth in there, balanced with a fair amount of experience, as we saw with Alvaro Morata, who's probably about 45 now, I think it seems. He's been around for so long, becoming the joint third highest goal scorer in Euros history with his goal. But all three of their goals were really well crafted. The whole team played a part, and Yamin Lamal has come in and made a real good impression with his assist. Fabio Ruiz had an absolute worldie of a game. Is Spain looking more tasty for you, Dave, than what you originally anticipated?
Yeah, and I think really interesting that the three goals scored by, probably three of the most experienced players in the squad. Like you mentioned, it feels like Morata's been around forever. Carvajal, what a play he's been. I think, in this game, it's great to see some of the younger players coming through. You mentioned Lamine Yamal. I think he was one we earmarked one of the breakthrough stars look at him in Barcelona in this past season. He's been a breath of fresh air, and I think just that he has that kind of centre of gravity that he has. He's just so easy on the eye to watch, isn't he? And I thought they played some superb football. The goals, particularly Ruiz's, was absolutely outstanding. And it was another team, I think we mentioned, didn't we, Miles, before the tournament. There was some kind of question marks there, just how good they are. Inevitably, there's a lot of talent there, but just how they were going to piece together. And I think, they probably would have given us a few answers there that they're still well capable of really competing in this tournament. And I think they might surprise a few.
Yeah, I think we talked about midfield balance with England not quite being there, but probably having to be situational depending on the opposition. I feel like this Spain midfield, Miles, is probably one of the most balanced I've seen so far, especially when you look at the fact they've got Rodri and Pedri in there as well. It's weird to think of them as unsung heroes in this game because they didn't get on the score sheet or didn't break any records. But that midfield for Spain, are you impressed by what you've seen?
I am. I'm going to caveat it again, though, that I think people get way too carried away with Croatia. Like, I think it's a really bad Croatia side, I'll be honest, because it's the same Croatia side that we've seen for the last 20 years, it feels like. So, yeah, on paper, we've got some absolute legends of the game. But after a long season, then jumping into a tournament straight away, and your midfield three is still Modric, Kovacic, Brozovic. There isn't a lot of quality in this Croatia team anymore. Modric obviously defies age most of the time, but ultimately he's going to be tired. And then outside of that, I think it is quite a weak side. So when you've got that kind of organisation, know-how and youth in the Spain midfield, they were always going to play circles around this Croatia team. It was a really good matchup for them on the opening game because they brought energy, and Fabian Ruiz did that incredibly well. Pedri moved the ball really quickly. We know what Rodri is capable of reading the game. So yeah, a fantastic result for Spain. Again, though, I'm going to be honest, I'm still not looking at them going, oh yeah, you're a lot better than I thought you were. They probably could have won by more if they were a better side. Croatia were absolutely terrible, if we're honest. And I don't know about you, Mike, but nothing made me feel older in this tournament than Yamal, like tearing Gvardiol, an absolute new one. Yeah. He was incredible. And I did think afterwards that I think both, definitely you, maybe even Dave, could be old enough to be Yamal's dad. So the fact that he's ripping up Croatia at the Euros is shocking to me.
I'll tell you what, though, that ball for Carvajal's goal was superb, wasn't it? And
yeah,
I was trying to set you up there, Miles, for a nice clippable piece about how good Spain are, but you actually turned it into a Croatia hate fest, so thanks for that. Dave, do you want to see this one positive again for how good Spain were? Because I feel like that midfield deserves some more adulation than what Miles gave it. I think it is a really well-balanced midfield. I'm surely you must agree with me.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's hard to question some of those individuals. You mentioned Rodri there, how good he's been over the last few years. I think the amount of experience he's got even at this stage, and he's still relatively young as well. But you mentioned, I think Ruiz, I think he's been underrated for so long. I think he's always been a really talented player, but I just don't think he's ever really had the plaudits. But he's got so much ability. And I think it's easy to overlook this Spanish side because I think everybody's come into this tournament thinking France, England, the overwhelming favourites. But you look at the last tournament, that obviously Italy went on to win, and they weren't by any means the favourites coming into that tournament. So there's always going to be that possibility that there's going to be some underdogs and some surprises, and that's what we're here for at the end of the day. And I think it would be really, really silly to overlook this Spanish team with the amount of ability that they have.
Thanks for that positive review there of Spain, Dave. Cheers. Appreciate that. Redressing the balance slightly.
Can I knock it back down a peg, though, and say I can't wait to see how this midfield does against Italy's midfield. That's a test that I really want to see. I think that'd be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to Thursday's game.
You actually set me up nicely for the Italy game there, Myles, because again, it's another one of those big hitters that we don't know what they can produce, because obviously they won the last Euros. At Qatar, we didn't see Italy. So it was a little bit of a strange last few years for them, isn't it? But how are you looking at this Italy team with obviously a new coach, new setup, a new generation, if you like, beating Albania 2-1 in a resilient fashion? They went behind to the earliest ever European Championship goal, which was a bit of a sucker punch, but they didn't let it affect them in the end, did they?
No, and here you go. I'll be positive and give you a good clip, because I thought Italy were excellent, I'll be honest. The early goal would rattle so many sides, and you would see them absolutely capitulate. And I wouldn't want to see England face that challenge, for example. I think the way that they got themselves back into the game so quickly was really, really important. And it showed what a high-level coach they've got in Spalletti, because the set-piece routine was excellent, I think. And the midfield was just superb. Jorginho controls games so well. We know that. I think he made more passes in this game than any player has made at the last 3 or 4 Euros tournaments, which is outstanding. And I think the way that Barella used his sort of engine through that game, his finish was excellent. He was just everywhere. And the same for Fratesi. I thought they really controlled a game in a way that I haven't seen a lot of teams been able to do. But again, just maybe weren't clinical enough. A bit like England, really. You wanted to see them do more and kick on a little bit. And Scamacca, I think, will find that happen at some point in this tournament. I'm disappointed for him that he didn't get on the score sheet in this game. So I think once he does, I can see some floodgates opening with the form he got to at the end of the season. But Italy look really threatening at times, and I think they are being underestimated by a lot of people going into this tournament.
You say threatening going forward, but I think defensively, apart from obviously the goal, they look pretty solid too. Bastoni, I'm really impressed by. Calafiori's really surprised me. I didn't expect him to be as composed at this level as he was. So but I think between them, they've got a solid base as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and you've still got Mancini on the bench, who will feel hard done by not getting a start, because he's been really great this season and again for Italy. So Calafiori is an interesting one. There's always a player, isn't there, at a tournament that has one really good tournament and shoots their value up, and he's coming off the back of an absolutely incredible season as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing some big amounts of money being thrown at him to try and get him over to the Premier League, for example. But yeah, they look really organised, and they were always going to, weren't they? It's another one that we talked about in the preview, didn't we, Dave? That we said that actually the depth that Italy have and some of those positions are so well covered. All right, DiMarco doesn't cover himself in glory for the goal, but it's a throw-in. It's not down to his actual footballing ability a lot of the time. But then we see how vital those wing-backs can be in the way that Di Lorenzo came forward as well. And Chiesa it looked like he was just waiting for this opportunity to come back onto an international stage and really show what he could do. He was so hard to play against, and I would never want to be a fullback against a player like that in that kind of form. So Italy have a lot of talent in there, and I think they will go deep in this tournament. I'll be really surprised. I think Thursday will be a really good test for both sides.
Absolutely.
But, I said it in the preview, I had a repeat final scheduled, so we'll see whether we can see it again.
Dave, what did you make of the Italian 4-3-3 lineup and the way they sort of composed themselves going forward? Because Myles was saying Scamacca didn't really... Well, he had opportunities, didn't he? But he never looked like he was going to have a clear goal-scoring opportunity. But the players around him all created things, all made that spark, didn't they? It was disappointing, again, a bit like England, to not see Italy take the game by the scruff of the neck, really, in the second half and really go for a third goal. But I think there's definitely an opportunity for them to do that. They've got the players to hurt opposition, haven't they?
I think particularly that midfield I was really impressed with. I think whenever you watch Italy, I think it's very rare that their midfield has a bad game. I think that's one of the most impressive things about them. And Myles is right, they've got really talented players throughout the ranks, particularly in midfield, I think. And in this game, I just thought it was really impressive at times how they penned Albania in, and just didn't really let them get any control. I think the only times that Albania really threatened as such is when they kind of went a little bit route one and tried to find gaps in behind that Italy side. There wasn't many moments, but I just think it's really difficult actually to gain a foothold in any game against this Italy team because they're so good at controlling games. And it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how they do against Spain. And that midfield battle is going to be colossal, really, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Do you know the other thing about the Italy side that I thought was really interesting? They almost played a bit of like a Villa-esque formation where they had one winger really in Chiesa, and then on the left hand side it was more of like an advanced midfielder. So like Fratesi and Pellegrini both kind of rotated who went out wide, a bit like we kind of see McGinn for Villa under Emery. So it's really weird to see Italy playing just a completely different system to what we used to, and seeing them allow their fullbacks to progress quite so high and not kind of sit deep enough. Like I thought they were excellent at doing that, and even Bastoni on the ball, the amount of time they allow him to kind of bring it forward. It's nice seeing Spalletti really encourage that dynamic, fluid running at a defence, because Italy have not done enough of that for the players that they've got. Now, obviously, they're missing a few through injury, a few have retired and a few have moved on, but this new generation looks really, really solid.
Yeah, do you know what, you say that, but I was really pleased to see Mattia Darmian make an appearance as well as a Man United fan. Always nice to see his face pop up where you least expect it. But yeah, a win for Italy and a great start to the tournament for them. Before we wrap up, guys, I want to just make a quick comment on the game that's just happened. We're recording on Monday the 17th, the evening of. France haven't kicked off yet their game, but we've just watched Belgium lose 1-0. Myles, wow, that's a big blow to Belgium's chances, isn't it? What's meant to be a new generation, that golden generation tag's been shaken off finally with some new players coming in. I actually thought this would be a comfortable game for them, but Slovakia made it really hard, didn't they? And it was frustrating at times.
It should have been a comfortable game, I suppose. But again, there's massive holes in this team. As they move on from the new generation, they've not located a new defence, which is really going to set them back in a tournament, isn't it? Like, no Courtois. Obviously, they've been used to Vertonghen and Alderweireld. They're not there anymore. Witzel's not really going to feature either. Playing Carrasco at left back, like it's not strong enough, and they learnt that the hard way in this game. And then going forward, I think they were unfortunate. The handball against Openda is so soft, isn't it? Like it touches his hand, but there's no deliberate motion. It doesn't change the course of the ball, really. Like, if they're having to measure the sound waves to see whether there's actually been contact, you can tell it's not made any difference to the play, really. So that felt like a bit of a gutting one. But they need to learn that lesson, and they need to learn it early. This group should be very, very comfortable for Belgium. And I don't think many people would have predicted that Ukraine and Belgium would be the bottom two after the opening game, really. So bit of a wake-up call needed there, and just a bit of luck, I think, as well. Like, look at Lukaku. Misses a few chances, scores twice, but neither of them stand. Like, you just need a bit of the rub of the green in tournament football, don't you? So let's just hope that they've got all their bad luck out of the way in the first game.
I think so. Dave, I think there's enough there for Belgian fans to not be too disheartened, really, because they did look threatening going forward. It was just lacking that cutting edge and a bit of luck, as you say, Myles. But I can't see Belgium really losing anymore. Can you? Surely not.
Can I answer that, Dave?
Oh, you talking to me?
Forever the professional.
It's your turn, mate.
I'll be surprised to see them make too many changes. I think, especially losing your first group game. But there's definitely options in there. I mean, you look at Openda, who's a really positive season. I think there's options there now, particularly in those attacking areas. I just think they're looking to, particularly to some of those more senior players, like you mentioned, Lukaku, De Bruyne. They need these players to step up now and just drag them through this, because it's far from ideal start to your group. And now the pressure just cranks up a notch, doesn't it, as well?
Didn't start Tielemans either.
No, I don't know if that's a fitness issue, though, but yeah, I'm surprised.
Him and Openda made a huge difference when they came on, I thought. He was looking for that running behind. And if you've got Doku, who is just going to sit out on the wing and look to beat a defender, someone like Tielemans, who can spread the ball from deep without relying on De Bruyne doing that, and letting him progress further forward. It's a perfect balance. Onana, Tielemans, De Bruyne. There's not many better midfielders than that in the tournament, but instead they took him out. I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah, it was an odd one, wasn't it? But I mean, lessons to learn, isn't it? It's a game where they're going to have to chalk this up as experience, really, and really not make any mistakes from here on in. They can't afford to, really, can they?
No.
But yeah, I think they'll still be amongst the favourites to kind of progress quite deep into the tournament, despite this defeat. But we shall see. Guys, I just want to say before we finish this pod, this is our third major tournament together on the Football Diary podcast. Can you believe that?
Nice.
We did the Euros back in 2021. We've seen Qatar World Cup, and now we're here. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
This is like the first normal one then, really, isn't it? Because the 2021 is a weird time for the Euros. Did a Winter World Cup. This is the first summer we've done where it should be done. That's weird, isn't it?
It feels great. And I thank everybody that's watching and listening to this now for being part of the journey so far, because we're doing all right. We are growing as a channel and we want to continue that, really. So continue watching us throughout the tournament. Hit like, subscribe and follow wherever you're listening or watching us. And we'll speak to you very soon. We'll get together and watch this tournament closely as it unfolds and relive all the action together here. So be with us as part of it. But until the next one, I don't know when that'll be, but very soon, hopefully. Speak to you soon, guys.
See you later.
Come on, England.